Today's word is coming from Luke chapter 13. Luke chapter 13. And we're going to look at verses 10 through 17. Luke 13, verses 10 through 17. I believe this word is going to encourage you on today. I really do. Luke 13, verses 10 through 17. It reads as follows. It says, "And he was teaching in one of the synagogues on the Sabbath, and behold, there was a woman which had a spirit of infirmity 18 years, and was bowed together, and could in no wise lift up herself. And when Jesus saw her, he called her to him, and said unto her, Woman, thou art loosed from thine infirmity. And he laid his hands on her, and immediately she was made straight and glorified God. And the ruler of the synagogue answered with indignation, because that Jesus had healed on the Sabbath day, and said unto the people, There are 6 days in which men ought to work. In them, therefore, come and be healed, and not on the Sabbath day. The Lord then answered him and said, Thou hypocrite, doeth not each one of you on the Sabbath loose his ox or his ass from the stall, and lead him away to watering? And ought not this woman, being a daughter of Abraham, whom Satan had bound, lo, these 18 years, be loosed from this bond on the Sabbath day? And when he had said these things, all his adversaries were ashamed, and all the people rejoiced for all the glorious things that were done by him." Amen. If you are taking notes on today, I am coming from the topic, not easily broken. Not easily broken. Here in the text, what we see is, we see this woman. She's in this condition while she's in this synagogue or this church. And she is bound over. She is limped over. She cannot lift herself up. Okay, and she's in this church as Jesus is teaching. She's in the church. Jesus is teaching, and she's in this condition. Grayson, there are a lot of people who may look like they have it going on the outside, but are troubled and dealing with a lot. Well, this woman here in the text, she could not hide the condition in which she was in. She could not prevent people from seeing the condition that she was in. Unlike others who can sometimes hide what they're going through, she could not hide it. It was evident. You could visually see the condition in which she was in. Verse 11, it tells us that the infirmity that she had was a spirit, but not only that, she could not lift herself up. She could not lift herself up. But although she could not lift herself up, she decided to go to church and to lift him up. Let me say that again. She could not lift herself up, but she decided to make her way to church and lift him up. She was not going to let this condition, this situation, break her. She had a never quit attitude. She was also faithful, Grayson, and she was faithful because we see her where at? In the synagogue, in the church. In other words, she was in position. She was in position. Now, she may not have been in the proper position physically, but she was in the proper position spiritually. spiritually. You see, you may not be in the proper position monetarily, or you may not be in the proper position career-wise, but if you get in the position being spiritually toward God, you're in the proper position. And when you do that, it will cause Jesus to look at you. You know, in sports, and I've talked about this or described this analogy before, but in sports, especially with quarterbacks and receivers, when the quarterback throws the ball, a lot of times he expects the receiver to be in the certain position that he's supposed to be in. So in other words, when the quarterback drops back, he's expecting the receiver to make the right cut at the right time to receive the ball that is coming his way. So in other words, the receiver has to be in the proper position. Same thing for basketball. It's the playoffs now in the NBA in September. That's odd in itself to have the finals and playoffs in September, but that's another story. But even in basketball, the players, they expect one another to be in the right position. You know, to be doing things the right way. So when the ball is thrown towards them, they won't make a cut when they're not supposed to make a cut. And they won't miss the ball that's coming their way. You see, this woman here in the text, she made the right cut at the right time. She was in this condition, but she still made her way to church. She said, you know, I may not be in the proper position physically, but I'm going to make sure I'm in the proper position spiritually. Verse 11 here, verse 11, it starts out by saying, and when Jesus saw her, and when Jesus saw her. Well, what did Jesus see? Well, he saw her, but he saw more than her. Okay? He also saw the condition that she's in. You see, a lot of times we think that God does not see us. We think sometimes that we are invisible to God and that he doesn't care, that he's not aware of our problems. And you're probably saying, well, maybe God is busy handling somebody else's problems and he's not even thinking about me. My matters do not even care to God. But Grace Center, God is omnipresent. I mean, he can be everywhere at the same time. But not only that, he's omniscient, meaning that he's an all-knowing God. Okay? And God, he knows what you're going through. And God also cares for you. Okay? He cares for you. He cares about your health, about your wealth. He cares about what you put in your body, what you don't put in your body. He cares about who you marry, who you do not marry. God is concerned about this. God cares about every facet of your life. You know, many years ago, God taught me this lesson. You know, with having a child, sometimes when you speak to a child, you know, you're doing things in a loving way. And years ago, I can remember, you know, me speaking to my daughter about, you know, a certain thing. And as I'm speaking to her, the revelation came to me is that, well, that's the way God is. In other words, God is a loving father that cares about you and that loves you. And watch this, he loves us more than we really love our own child. Imagine that. Imagine how much you love your child and multiplying that to a number you cannot even calculate. That's how much God loves you. And it's hard to fathom the love of God, the love of a loving father that he has for us. But he does care for us. He does love us. He cares for you. He's concerned about your entire life. The word even says that he knows the number of hairs on our head. He knows every detail about us. He's a loving father. This woman here in the text, this woman here was in this condition for 18 years. Not 18 days, not 18 months, but 18 years. She was determined not to be broken by this. 18 years is a long time, but she was determined. She was saying, I'm not going to let this situation break me. I'm not going to let it break me. She said, no matter what, I'm going to keep on praying. No matter what, I'm going to keep on praising. No matter what, I'm going to continue to worship God. And no matter what, I'm going to continue to still go to church. She knows her condition more than anybody else. But despite her condition, she did not let her condition stop her. See, a lot of times we'll let our conditions and our situations stop us. But she was not going to let the condition in which she was in stop her. Can you imagine what she had to do just to make it to church in the condition that she was in? Think about the long walk that she had to take just to make it to church in the condition that she was in. Think about if she had to Uber a donkey to come and pick her up, to take her to church, and all the bumpy rides she had to go on in the condition in which she was in. But you know what? She still made it. She did not make up any excuses. She got up, she put her clothes on, and she made it to the house of the Lord. Now, right now, we're using technology for church services. But even with using technology, you do know a lot of times people will still have excuses for not even making their way to all of the thousands of church services that are happening virtually. This woman here, she did not make up any excuses. She said, I'm still going to make my way to the house of the Lord despite the condition in which I'm in. Many times you may hear people say things like, if they were going through some things and they may disappear for a long period of time. And when you finally are able to reach up to them, you're like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. I haven't talked to you in a while. What's going on? And they'll say, well, I was dealing with this, dealing with that. I didn't want to, attend church. I didn't want to do this and so forth. But Grace, when you are going through certain things, when you are in a certain condition of your own, it is not the time to pull away from God. That's the time to make your way to Him. Don't pull away from God if you're in a certain situation. Let there be a prime time for you to make your way to God. This woman here did not have any excuses for her not making her way to the house of the Lord. But also, with her being in this condition for so long, Grace Center, other people saw her in this condition. Other people witnessed and saw her in this condition. In other words, her condition probably spoke louder than she did. By looking at her also, you would think that with her being limped over in this condition, that maybe she had some broken bones or something like that. Maybe, just maybe, she broke something. Well, Luke is the writer of this passage here, and by profession, Luke is a doctor. Luke likes to describe things in vivid details. When Luke were describing Jesus in the garden, Luke described how Jesus was sweating drops of blood. In other words, Luke is a doctor by profession. So that stuff is interesting to Luke, right? He was describing the pain and the agony of Jesus. And he said that the sweat of Jesus was like drops of blood. He was very vivid in his details with him describing Jesus. Well, this woman here, if she had some broken bones, I would like to believe that Luke would have said it. Just by his profession alone, he would have described how the bones in her body were broken, but he did not speak of any of that. You see, Grace said about people looking at you and knowing your condition, knowing what you are going through, knowing what you have been through, they expect you to be broken. Yeah, let me say that one more time. People knowing what you're going through, by people knowing what you have been through, they expect you to be broken. They expect your condition to break you. And they probably, watch this, they probably expect your condition to break you because if it was them and if they were in your shoes, it would probably break them. Okay. People may be looking at you and wondering, how do she get up every day and do what she does? How does he always have a smile on his face and I know what he's going through? You see, if the shoes were on the other feet, they probably could not handle what you're handling. They will probably have a nervous breakdown because they cannot handle the things in which you are able to handle. You see, a lot of things that we go through, God has already equipped us to handle the things in which we're under, the pressure in which we may be under. So a lot of times when people know your situation and see your situation, they are expecting you to handle it one way, but you're handling it a different way. You see, they don't understand and they have no idea the relationship that you have with the Father. You see, maybe they just do not have a relationship like you have a relationship with the Father. But since they don't have a relationship like you do, when they know your condition and see you in your condition, your situation, your circumstance, they say, I don't know how they do it, how they still have a smile on their face, how they're always joking and so forth. Well, it's because you have a relationship with the Father. So despite the condition you may be in, you say, I am not going to let this condition break me. I'm not going to let it break me. You know, a lot of times, you know, you may hear people say things like, man, I wish I was you. They'll probably see all of the things that you have attained, your achievements, and, you know, the car you drive, house you live in, all this stuff, the spouse, the kids, and all this stuff. They'll say things like, I wish I was you. But you know what? They don't know what you had to go through to get what you got. In other words, as the old folks would say, they see your glory, but they don't know the story. It's almost like you've seen the before and after pictures, like if somebody lost weight, or if someone was working on a type of project, like a house project or something, they'll show the before and after pictures. And if you meet someone who did not know you before, and if you were to show them the pictures of the before and the after, they'll be like, I had no idea that, this was you before. You see, a lot of times people don't know the full story. They only see the after, but they don't see the process that you have to go through. You see, all of us go through a process, and sometimes the process may hurt along the way. So when people say, I wish I was you, I wish I had it going on like you do, well, no, you don't, because you don't know the process. You don't know what I had to go through. You don't know the battles I had to fight to make it to where I'm at today. And you still do not know the battles that I have to fight. No, you don't want to be like me. You do not know the process that I had to go through just to get here. Also, here in this text, the word tells us that Jesus saw her. Okay. Jesus saw her. But not only did Jesus see her, watch this, he called her. He saw her, but he called her. He didn't send anyone else to her, but he called her himself. In other words, he said, I need for you to use your faith to come to me. So I'm calling you. I need the faith in which you have to come to me. You see, a lot of things that God may ask us to do, Grace Center, it may not make a lot of sense. What sense does it make to start a business in this type of economy right now? What sense does it make for someone to go to college, but yet they don't even have the money? What sense does it make for someone to put in a job application and they don't even meet the minimum requirements? So here's another news flash, Grace Center. It's not supposed to make sense. It's only supposed to make faith. It's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to make faith. This woman had enough faith to go to him when he called her. He called her. She went to him. She went to church. He saw her. He called her. She used faith to go to him in the situation that she was in. Grace Center, what are you going to do when God calls you? I know I spoke to somebody right there. That was confirmation for somebody, right? I felt that in my big toe. What are you going to do when God calls you? Because watch this. Especially when we have problems and situations and we're going through things, okay? Especially in those times. What are you going to do when God asks for you? Because watch this right here. God can fix our problems, but he cannot fix what we don't give him. I'll say that again. God can fix your problems, but are you going to give him the problems in which you're having? If you have ever worked out, especially for men, when you go to the gym, or when you used to go to the gym, when you work out, especially when you're lifting weights and so forth, you will have someone behind you called a spotter. The job of the spotter is to help you lift the weights off of you if it's too heavy for you. Because sometimes, especially with men, our egos may get in the way. We think we're stronger and bigger and better than what we really are. So a lot of times, we may try to lift something and, try to do something that is out of our reach. And if we try to lift something that is too heavy for us, The job of the spotter behind us is to take the weight and to lift it off of us. That's the job of the spotter. Okay. Well, Grace Center, Jesus is our spotter. When the pressures of life, when the weight of life is heavy for us, Jesus is saying, I can help you with the weight if you allow me to. But the issue is, Grayson, a lot of people are still trying to lift the weights themselves. They know it's too heavy for them, but instead of them giving it to Jesus, they try to lift it off of them themselves. And when they try to lift the weight off of them themselves, they struggle. They're in pain. They're in agony, trying to figure out, how do I get the weight off of me? You get it off of you by allowing the spotter, who is Jesus, to get it off of you. You allow him to intervene and to come into your situation. He said, give it to me. Give me your cares. Give me your worries. Give me your burdens. I am the one that can help you lift the pressures of life. Lift the weight that is too heavy for you. You cannot handle this by yourself. You cannot handle this situation by yourselves. If you need help, that's my job. I'm your spotter if you allow me to help you. And a lot of us have egos. We're like, I got this. I can handle it. I don't need help. Yes, you do. We all need help. Even the strongest of us need help. Even the ones of us who think we know it all. We need help. Jesus is saying, I'm your spotter. Allow me to help you get the weight that is on you. This woman here, this woman was bent out of shape. But although she was bent out of shape, the task was not too difficult for the potter. She was bent out of shape, but this task of getting her back to the shape that she belonged in, it wasn't too difficult for the potter. The potter is able to place you back in shape the way you should be. But we have to allow the potter to do what the potter does. And that's to mold and to shape us. Because the potter is in the molding business. He's in the shaping business. He knows how to shape us and to put us back where we belong. But here in the text here, and I'm almost done. Here in the text, verse 12 rather. Let's look at verse 12. It says this. It says, and when Jesus saw her, he called her to him and said unto her, Woman, thou art loosed from thine infirmity. Okay. The very thing that had her bound, Grace Center, Jesus spoke over it. The very thing that had her bound, that's what Jesus spoke over. That infirmity. And Grace Center, I pray that whatever you may be facing, whatever situation it may be, I pray that you will be loosed from that situation. I pray that whatever situation you're in, that you give it over to Jesus and allow Jesus to take it off of you. Verse 13, it says, after Jesus has laid his hands on her and that she was healed immediately. Okay, this was an immediate healing for her. Because a lot of times God can heal us immediately. But then sometimes, Grace Center, it may not be immediate. Sometimes it may be a process. Some time may go by before that situation gets resolved. But we must allow the process to sometimes play out and use our faith and trust in God to know that He has already worked out that situation. Because you may be saying, well, I don't see anything yet. Nothing has happened yet. I haven't seen a change take place yet. Well, that's when I say, walk by faith and not by sight. We have to learn how to be faith walkers, okay? Not always trying to see if it has truly resolved itself, but use the faith in which you have and walk by that and believe that God is going to do exactly what He said He is going to do. And a lot of times we have to increase our expectation off of what God has already told us is going to happen. The woman here, she came to church. Jesus called her. She went to Jesus. Jesus healed her. And after Jesus healed her, the word says that she glorified Him. Okay. She went to church. Jesus saw her. Jesus called her. She went to Jesus. Jesus healed her. And she glorified Him. I wish I had a front row seat in that church to witness what took place. I wish I could have been there to see it. Can you imagine being bound for 18 years and in a split second you're healed? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the shouts that she had? Can you imagine her dance? Can you imagine the emotions that she was having at that time? She gave glory to the one who healed her. And Grayson, we must never forget who heals us. We must never forget the one who provides for us. We must never forget the one who protects us. Here the woman gave God the glory for healing her. After she was healed, Grace Center, when you continue to read, the ruler of the synagogue was upset with Jesus. This ruler, this religious person, he was upset with Jesus for Jesus healing this woman. He was like, how are you going to heal someone on the Sabbath day? Here you have this woman, Grace Center. She is bound for 18 years. She's healed. A miracle just took place. And somebody in the church, a religious leader, had the nerve to say, how are you going to heal on the Sabbath day? How are you going to do this? Well, the response of Jesus was like, well, let me ask you a question. On the Sabbath day for you all, when you need to feed one of your animals and so forth, don't you let them out the stalls to go feed them and give them water on the Sabbath day? Don't you do that? In other words, you're a hypocrite. Mm-hmm. This woman was bound for 18 years. And I healed her. Yes, it's on the Sabbath day, but I healed her. And you're saying I'm not supposed to work or to do these things on the Sabbath day, but yet you'll turn around and go feed an animal. Oh, thank you, Holy Ghost. I didn't see that in my little text this morning. But you'll go feed an animal and not take care of a person. In other words, you have your own rules and your own regulations and so forth, but yet you have someone who needs a touch right now. You're a hypocrite. But also, Grace Center, there's something I want to point out in verse number 16. Let's look at verse number 16 real quick. I'm almost done. Watch this. It says, And ought not this woman, being a daughter of Abraham, whom Satan had bound, lo, these 18 years, be loosed from this bond on the Sabbath day? Now, this verse is very clear. It says that Satan had her bound. Okay. This was the work of the adversary. And you know what? Watch this. The religious folks was upset with Jesus, but they could not even see that this was the work of the devil. Okay, all right. You should be shouting in your living room right now, in your car, wherever you at. The religious leaders could not even see that this woman, with the situation that she was in, was bound by the devil. Now, I thought the religious folks and the people in the church, I thought that we're all on the same team. I thought we're all on the same team. Okay, we're all fighting against the enemy. We're all fighting against Satan and his camp. I thought we were on the same team. But yet, they get mad at Jesus for healing someone who Satan had bound and placed in this condition. But these religious folks, they could not even see the work of the devil. Okay, all right. They could not even see that what Jesus was doing was that he was reversing what Satan had done. You see, these religious folk, a lot of church folk, need to get the discernment to know and to see when it's the work of the enemy or not. They could not even see that this woman is bound and she's in this condition for a long time, and it is the work of Satan. But Jesus saw it, and when Jesus saw it, he healed her of the condition in which she was in. You see, a lot of times, watch this, and it's about to get real bumpy right about here. Watch this. Don't tune me out. Watch this. Religious folk need to stop being so rigid in their rules and regulations, in the programs that they have and established. Here you have these folk that are so rigid in what they believe that they will not even switch up anything to meet a need. The thing about Jesus, Grace Center, is that if there's a need, Jesus is focused on the need. I feel like shouting in here. If there is a need, Jesus' focus is looking at the need of the person. I got another example. Oh, I love the Word of God. In Matthew chapter 12, go back and look at Matthew chapter 12 in your own study time. Matthew chapter 12, it describes a scene where you have Jesus and his disciples are going through this field, and the disciples are hungry. And it's on the Sabbath day again. and when his disciples are hungry, they decide to eat the corn, the grain, okay, on the Sabbath day. The Pharisees, religious folk, they get upset with Jesus and the disciples for working, because they consider it working, for plucking the corn and the grain on the Sabbath day, all right? But Jesus was like, hey, they hungry. They have a need. Jesus was always focused on the need, not a whole bunch of rituals and programs and things like that. But Matthew 12 goes a little bit further. It also talks about David, when he made his way into the temple, and David was hungry. So David began to eat the showbread that was on the table. Now, the showbread was strictly for the priests. But yet David was hungry. So he decided to eat the showbread. Yes, it's for the priest, but David had a need. Jesus, he's always focused on the need. It's not about all these programs, all these things, all these services that you have established and no, Jesus is focused on the need of a person. In other words, if someone has a need, meet the need of the person. A lot of things can be thrown out the window when someone is in need. Stop focusing on all of these things that you have established yourself. If someone is hurting, help them get through the hurt in which they're having right now. This message, I pray, is for somebody to comment in the comments. Let me know that the Holy Ghost speaking to me. Please do that for your pastor. I need to know that. Jesus was like, I'm meeting the need. They have a need, I'm going to meet it. I don't care about all this other stuff y'all set up. I don't care. They have a need, I'm going to meet it. Not only that, Jesus was like, you have your Sabbath day, but I am the Lord of the Sabbath. Man, this message turned out better than I thought it would. So, yeah, you have your Sabbath day. I'm the Lord of the Sabbath. In other words, something needs to be switched. I can switch it. Let me continue on. Grace Center, you can go to church, but the question is the church in you? These religious folks was in church, but the question is the church in them? Well, let's be theologically correct. Because actually, we are the church. It's more than just a building. We are the church. The religious leader could not even recognize and see that this woman was bound by Satan. And Jesus released her from the bondage in which she was in. And he did it on the religious folks' Sabbath day, their holy day. See, I'm so glad that God will change rules and regulations on my behalf. But not only will God change up rules and regulations on my behalf, he'll change them up on your behalf as well. They may have certain things set up against you, but when God steps in there, he said, nope. You have a need, I'm going to meet the need in which you have. I don't care what they're saying. If you have a need, I'm going to meet the need. And Grace Center, if God wants to switch it up, let him switch it up. Let him switch up and turn things around if he needs to meet the need. But the travesty comes into play is that when you have the creation trying to tell the creator what he needs to do. The creator is the one that's saying, nope, I'm the one that can switch up and change what needs to be changed. If they have a need, I am going to meet the need of that person. I'm closing now. When you look at the text, the Grace Center, all of this takes place in front of other people. In other words, it was a crowd of people that saw what were going on. I don't know if they were socially distanced or not. They were close enough to see what was going on. They were close enough to see the miracle that took place. And after they saw it, Grace Center, verse 17, it tells us that they also glorify Jesus. In other words, they joined in on the praise party. They joined in on the shout party. They joined in on the dance party. They did not let this woman shout and glorify God by herself. Grace said, when you witness and see someone that receives a breakthrough, don't let them shout by themselves. Join in with them. You know, get in that little dance yourself. You know, that little. Join on the dance yourself with them. Don't let them shout by themselves. Don't let them dance by themselves. The woman was healed. It was a miracle that took place. And the word tells us that the crowd, they joined in along with the woman. The woman was bound by Satan for a long time. But although she was bound, she was not broken by her condition. In other words, she said, I'm not going to be easily broken. I'm not going to let this situation break me. And Grace Center, I pray that whatever situation you may be in today, despite the storms that may hit you, I pray that you are like a palm tree. You know, a palm tree during storms, they would bend and so forth. They'll go back and forth. But rarely do they really break. They'll go back and forth. The wind is pushing the palm tree, but they rarely break. I pray that when the storms of life hit you, that you'll be like a palm tree planted by the rivers of life. You'll bend, but you won't break. You may bend, but you will say, I'm not going to let this situation easily break me.